Fast and fatal. Two teenage boys, not even old enough to drive legally, tragically killed. Police say it happened while they were street racing. Good afternoon. I'm Sherman Chow. That crash caught on a surveillance camera in Southwest Houston. Our Michelle Choi spoke with family and friends of those teens.
Without police tape, it's hard to believe just hours ago, two teenage boys were killed in this very spot. Traces of the accident still here on West Fuquay Street, including a down street sign. And check this out, a tree stump. It's all that's left after a teenager's SUV slammed into it. As the sun rose, family members of two teenage boys killed inside this mangled SUV watched as daylight brought to light the tragic truth.
They were good kids, they young kids. They only 15 years old. They still babies.
Young lives cut short. Police say two 8th graders were speeding down West Fuquay Street racing against another teenage boy. Those moments caught on a nearby surveillance cam. The two SUVs side by side when one of them loses control, flipping several times, slamming into a tree and crashing. A police car that saw them showing up seconds later. The driver of the crashed SUV, according to his aunt, 15-year-old Javier Hunter. She says her nephew asked her for her car keys, saying he was getting something from the car. She never expected what was to follow.
I should have seen the warning sign, but I didn't. I used to catch him, but I did not catch him this morning. And the results of that, it took his life.
Sitting beside Javier was his friend, 15-year-old Savion Farley. His mom distraught in the distance, his great-grandma watching in disbelief as police worked the scene.
I can't believe it's him. I never got to see him that much.
The devastating news too much to bear.
My heart is hurting.
Police say the teenage driver of this black SUV Javier and Savion were racing against did briefly get out of the car to check on them after they crashed, but then took off again as seen in the surveillance footage. But he was quickly detained by cops. A friend of the teenage boys telling us all three were good friends and they just made a bad choice.
I know they was having fun, but they shouldn't have been racing. They got to abide by the laws out here.
The 14-year-old teenage boy who took off was arrested by police. He's now facing 2 felony charges, including failure to stop and render aid and racing causing death. In Southwest Houston, I'm Michelle Choi, KHOU.
And breaking news now, one of the Dallas officers shot yesterday afternoon has died. He is Officer Rogelio Santander. He and Officer Krista Almeida, along with a store loss prevention officer, were gunned down at a Home Depot. And police say this man, 29-year-old Armando Juarez, is the shooter. He is in jail now under a $1 million bail. Hannah Davis has the very latest from the hospital in Dallas.
We have an update on the officers that were shot here in Dallas yesterday, and unfortunately, it is another loss for this city and for this department. We have just learned in the last hour that Rogelio Santander, a 3-year veteran of the Dallas Police Department, was killed when he was shot yesterday. We're also getting an update on his colleague, Krista Almeida. We talked to police officers who say that she is showing incredible strength. She's able to communicate through gestures, and they do believe she is recovering at this time after facing critical injuries after that shooting yesterday. Now, this all happened yesterday afternoon at a Home Depot when those 2 officers, as well as a security guard at Home Depot, was shot by a man. All 3 of those officers were taken to a hospital in critical condition where they immediately went into surgery. Yesterday, we got news that they had been released from surgery, or the surgery was over, but unfortunately today we have learned that one of the officers lost his life. There is powerful video of officers coming here to gather to be by their colleagues' side as they go through this incredibly difficult time. And talking to officers today, they're just starting the grieving process as many of them suit up to go out and do their jobs yet again here in Dallas. Reporting in Dallas, Hannah Davis.
Thoughts and prayers with those surviving officers and that loss prevention officer. We will continue to follow this story on air and at KHOU.com. Check our social media pages for up-to-the-minute information as well. Houston ISD says that it will not charge the people forced out of the board meeting last night during a wild and raucous event. Things getting out of hand when the district shut the meeting down to the public. There was screaming and a scuffle. Ultimately, though, no decision about the future of 10 underperforming schools. And then the real chaos came as the board president, Rhonda Skillern Jones, closed the meeting to the public. Many refused to leave. District police officers even stepped in. There are 10 underperforming schools that have been in trouble for years, scoring 30 to 40 percentage points below the state average on STAR tests. Under state law, that is unacceptable and something must be done. And here are the options. Close schools, then reopen them with limited grade levels, do nothing and hope that the schools meet academic state standards this year, which is unlikely, or hand over control to a partner, in this case, a potential charter school. We want your take on this. In our live informal poll today, we are asking, are charter schools the solution for HISD's underperforming campuses? Head to KHOU.com/vote now to let us know what you're thinking. Former President George H.W. Bush still in the hospital, but tweeting out a thank you today. He said in part, "My family and I thank, well, really all Houstonians for your professionalism and obvious care in making Barbara's visitors and funeral guests feel so welcome." Mr. Bush is still being treated for sepsis at Methodist. A family spokesman says he is determined to get well enough to travel to his summer home in Maine. We will bring you updates on his condition as we learn it, both on air and at KHOU.com. All right, let's take a live look now over downtown Houston. It is warming up a bit today, but we do have changes in our forecast. Hey, Blake.
Hey, Sherman, good afternoon. If you saw that tower cam, if you watched carefully, there were a few cotton ball clouds over the skyline there, and that is an indication that our atmosphere beginning to moisten up a little bit as rain begins to push into our direction. So the beautiful weather that we've seen over the last couple of days getting ready to come to an end, but it's going to be for a very short window. Tomorrow going to be a very nice day as well. Here's all the rain. By the way, if you're headed up towards Dallas, the front has already pushed through there where they are currently in the 50s. So if you're headed up into the north, take a sweater. All of this rain will be pushing into our region as we head into the late afternoon hours today and into the overnight. So as far as rain chances go, really no rain chance through about 3 o'clock, but we will introduce a 20% chance by 4, all the way up to about 30% chance as we get ready for that drive home. And as far as temperatures go, could be the warmest day of the year at 86 degrees.